And welcome to the Restoration Club podcast. This is episode number 3. We're super excited for having you join us. And speaking of joining us tonight, we have none other than Dave Baysden himself. We're super excited to have you tonight, Dave. And we're excited about what the story and the conversation is going to be.
Awesome.
Yeah, Dave, we really appreciate the time, man. I know you and I go back a ways, but excited just to hear your story, give you a chance to tell it. You obviously being a co-founder of Restoration Club, definitely want to set the stage there. But yeah, man, I had to slide into the DMs myself to figure out the first time I even reached out to you. It was funny. I was scrolling back through. It took me a while because there's been quite a few. But we're going back 5+ years at this point. So time flies. So it's crazy to be sitting here, man, telling this story and just getting the opportunity to send it out to more listeners. But take us back, man. I know, people know you vocationally, probably as an artist, but I know there's makings of a career even before that. So take us back to the beginning.
Yeah, first, thank you guys for having me on. This is awesome. Love that you guys have taken this by the reins and love the first 2 episodes. So excited to be part of it. And yeah, it's crazy. 5.5 years. That's nuts, man. Yeah, things looked a little different 5.5 years ago. That's for sure.
I think for all of us.
Yeah, I think you reached out about a painting I had done, and you said let's just go get coffee, and that was the start of a friendship that for me is such a blessing to know you and to see what God is doing through you, and it's just really cool to see where God has taken me in the last 5.5 years, but also the people he's brought into my circle, which 5.5 years ago, I was working for an engineering firm. My circle was like the 8 people in my office. I'd look around and that was it. And they were great people. And that's why I worked there, because they were really good people. But I was there I worked for that company for almost 20 years. It was an engineering firm. And that was a different time for sure. So but yeah, when I met you, I had probably just started some painting, some small paintings, and was doing some graphics stuff on the side, which the piece you reached out about was of the U.S. Capitol, and it was for a friend who asked me to do a bunch of those, and I had done some graphics work for him. So it was still a little project, and things have kind of ramped up from there. So it's pretty exciting to think how that started, even our friendship.
It's funny because I had to go back and double check to see what the first thing I said to Dave Baysden was to set the table. And it's funny that we met over a painting that you painted of the U.S. Capitol building, because I think the first thing I said was, oh, a guy serving the Lord that loves golf, because that's what I could see from your presence online. So obviously there was some passion points already connected there. So it's even funnier to me now to think that I reached out, not about golf, not about our faith, even though I was reaching out about that, knowing that was your background too. But the fact that, I wanted to meet up with you because you said you had created all these paintings of the U.S. Capitol building. And I said, I'll take one of those. And for those that don't know, Ryan, you may not even know this. I'm from the DC area, but I actually, the first night I met my wife, we hung out in front of the U.S. Capitol building. That's actually where I proposed. So there was a nice little backstory there of why I wanted that painting from Dave, but I knew he was talented from day one, which everybody else can see now.
Okay. I appreciate that. I think that's the cool part is of what I get to do. I think it's probably the most surprising part of what I do. And it goes back to situations like that where I get to be a part of a story, right? Like that gift is more than a painting. It's a connection. And then I'm inserted into that, which is in some situations, just a complete honor, which in that situation for sure, it's like to have captured a place that meant so much to you and your wife. It's pretty special. So, and God's given a number of those stories over the last 6 years, which is yeah, a huge blessing to me, and hopefully to the people that are getting those. Hopefully they'll like them. One of those did end up on eBay, I told you. So one
Nice.
of those capital paintings.
Dave,
Mine's not on there. It was not mine.
yeah.
But I
Dave,
had a buddy buy it, and he was like, I had to get it. He said I saw it on eBay, and I had to get it, which was great.
that's
So,
awesome. I love that he grabbed it.
and
That's
he
cool.
gave it to somebody else, which was even cooler. So thanks,
I love
Miles. If you hear
How
this.
how did you go from 2 decades in the engineering world like that, and like how do you make that shift? I mean, I know it's a longer story.
Yeah.
There's much more to it, but like maybe give us that peel back to 6 months prior, or a year prior, whatever it is in that relevant time that would say how you made that leap.
Yeah, I mean, you say I made that leap, and I really didn't. Like I really think, and I'll kind of walk you through what happened and why I say that. But yeah, I worked for that company for close to 2 decades, and it really was great. There were great people in that job. That company got bought out maybe after like year 12 or something like that. I had worked with, it felt like a family. And so I did things that I enjoyed, and some things that, I was like, well, this is my job. So I do my job. You're not gonna enjoy it every day, but there were days where I got to do something creative, and they let me do a lot in that job where I learned how to kind of help engineers be more creative and kind of visualize their projects. And that was those days were super fun and challenging, and it kind of pushed my creativity there, I think. And then after we got bought out, I went through this period of you have to do what we tell you to do. Like it was a totally different shift. I was felt like I was fighting for a job where right before my son was born, I was put like went from salary to like halftime, and they're like, you're at 20 hours, your benefits are going to run out right before your son is born. Like I'm like, what is going on? They ended up changing that like right before he was born, so I don't know a lot of why that happened, but anyway, it got me into the mindset of I'm in a place where I don't want to be, and that was super hard. I found a journal, or my wife found a journal when we moved from Charlotte last summer, and we were flipping through it, and there was a prayer from probably I would say maybe over 10 years ago, and it was essentially I was asking God that I wanted to do something creative. I wanted to have a career of my own that was in something creative. I figured that would be like illustration or logos or just something out of what I was doing. And I prayed that for 10 years, probably. Like it was a daily struggle. It was a daily prayer. It was a daily, I just was lifting it all the time. My wife was too. She knew when I would come home and I was frustrated and hadn't done anything challenging or creative. And so fast forward, I began just like painting little paintings on the couch, because I was like, I'm done with being on the computer all the time, all day long. Then I would do some logos at night, and it just felt like I was just tapped out kind of on a computer. And so I'd always painted as when I was a kid with my sister. Art was just a big part of our family. And so I started doing these little paintings, threw them up on Twitter, did some cartoon kind of things of the different majors, and put those on Twitter. And a guy found them and was like, hey, listen, I want to do an interview with you. I'll put it on my website if you'll do a painting of St. Andrews for me. And I was like, okay, I can do it. Fine. You like, God just kept putting this idea in my path. And I didn't even see that it was like he was answering a prayer the whole time. He was just like little little breadcrumbs, it felt like, and I'm trying to think and there was at my church, we had we had a creative pastor. His name was Steve Whitby, amazing man. We had like a group of artists that would gather on like once a month, and I was always super afraid to go to this gathering. And Danny, I told you before we even talked, when I saw you this week at the Wells, I was like, my story's a lot about fear, and it really was. Like, I was afraid to go to this group. I was afraid of if they had art degrees, they knew how to mix the right paint to get the color they wanted. A lot of mine feels lucky sometimes, and I feel like I'm just trying until I get it right. But yeah, there was a lot of fear in just showing up and showing them what I was working on. But all of that was like just squashed. The first night I went, it was like, man, Dave, that's really cool what you're working on. Like, what else you got, that you're thinking about? And anyway, Steve said, Dave, you're gonna paint on this wall during our Tenebrae service before Easter. And it was a lot of fear. And he's like, Dave, you can't say no, you're just gonna do it. Anyway, that's a long story. We can ask questions about that, but like all that to say, when COVID came, God had set the table. Like, it was time for me to leave that job. And so when COVID came, it pretty much, I just saw the writing on the wall. Like, this job's not going to last. It was already kind of I was the last person from that office in a 6,000 square foot office. It was me. I had the office next to me was a painting studio by then. We moved while I was there, so I had storage space, plenty of it.
Yeah,
that was
You're basically saying you had every corner office in 6,000 feet. Is that what you're trying to say?
I did. I had a lot of window offices. I had a projector during March Madness for that was pretty sweet. But sad too. I was the only person there, but they made me go to the office. That was good.
That's great.
But then I did get to start working from home before everyone else did, so that was nice.
That's awesome. Dave,
that's a long ramble of a story.
No,
so
it's not, because I think it does. I think we've used that phrase earlier of set the table. And one of the questions that struck me was, Steve Withy pushed you and said, no, you're going to come and do this, be in here. Even that first step of you going to that creative artist night. Can you remember what it was like walking into the door, like before you even walk in the door, your drive up? What's the thought process of trying to, you're gripped by fear in this time.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. No, you nailed it. That's a great question, because that's really where I feel like it might have started. Like, I knew that group that group was probably meeting for 5 years, and I wanted to go hang out with them and just see what they were working on. And even when I wasn't even working on anything. So that tells me that God created something in me, right? And that I wanted like it just needed at the right moment, it needed to start. And that was a really powerful kind of moment to say, all right, I'm showing up tonight. And all my fears were like ridiculous. And once I walked through the door, right? Like, they were all super kind, super encouraging. So it was just, yeah. The brain is really hard on ourselves, right?
That's right. The voices of often that negative voice is the one that we latch onto the most. The plasticity doesn't really kick in. It's all Velcro, and that negative stuff just sits there. And I think anyone listening to this right now or watching can definitely understand the idea of fears that grip us. And we sometimes, probably all the time, have to push through those to be able to get to where we really need to be, the place that God really has called us to be. And often we just don't, because sometimes people are gripped so much that they're just paralyzed. And it's cool that a Steve Withy pushes you, or that at the end of the day, though, you're still responsible for your own steps. You've got to walk through that door. You've got to make that step. It's just like a step of faith, right? It's exactly where it's at.
for sure. Yeah. And God just kept putting those opportunities for me to step. It wasn't, he didn't just like make me jump off this, this big chasm into nothing, and that no one was gonna catch me. It was little steps, and he continues to do that. Like, I still have a ton to learn about painting and business and just all of those things, but he continues to be kind and gentle in how he's leading. So, but he's brought amazing people around me, which is, kind of why we're here tonight, right? Like, God is,
It seems like he probably knew it wasn't too much for you to handle, but it was enough for you to have to depend on him if you were going to keep taking those steps for it to become your thing, which is kind of cool to see.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Yeah, there's definitely, I learned a lot, and depending on God, that first, like, just once that job ended, even how it ended, got my boss at the end of that job, was super kind of fight for me, and that so that job would end well, and that whether the company wanted to end well, he didn't care. He fought for me to be able to have some like severance, some room for us to figure out what was next. And essentially because I kind of brought to them the idea that, okay, I can see my job is not going to be around, and he's like, listen, it's fine, we were gonna fire you anyway, basically. It was really like, your job, if I said, these conversations have to be happening, and so if they are, can you please tell me so we can do what's next? And he was super kind and gracious for that to end well. And he was always fighting. He did not want me to have to leave. He was always fighting for new creative opportunities for me, and they just weren't happening, kind of with the state of the world and engineering and kind of what all was going on there. So when I got let go, it was, God had set the table, and I've always kind of leaned on Psalm 23, and I never had kind of brought it personal when God says, I set the table in the midst of your enemies, right? Like, he really was setting a table in the middle of everything going on. So Mandy, my wife, and I were able to say, all right, let's give it a try. Like, God had, all these opportunities had built up. I had enough, what I saw as enough backlog to say, okay, we have work for several months, and some commissions and things had built to the point where, again, I didn't feel like I was taking this big step in my career. It was like, all right, this is just the next step. And finally, that kind of weight of fear, and I mean, there was a lot of fear in taking that step, but kind of the fear of painting and calling myself an artist. That was a big, even for Danny to introduce me and say, people know you as an artist. Like, to say I was an artist was a really strange thing at that time, and still a little odd. But that step was made easier because God had kind of set that whole scene, whether I saw it happening or not. But
I was just gonna say that gives us a good segue, and I know it's not everything that you've done, because you've done a multitude of things, and I know you well enough to know you're too humble to do this. So my hope is that by prompting you, you'll drop in a few mic drops on us. But in terms of your work and the transition, the constant thread is being able to paint golf scenes, or golf memories for certain people. So why did that become both a personal passion, and obviously became a greater opportunity based on people knowing that you had the ability to do that? And how how did you get introduced to the game, and how does that now play out in your art?
I love it. I love that question because it's like I think I think I think God also is a God of surprises. Like I didn't look at golf and say, I'm gonna jump into this space and just start painting golf courses. It was like when I started painting these little small paintings on my couch, just little watercolors because they were easy to clean up. And, my kids were just after a hard day, you don't want to, I didn't have a dedicated space for painting. So it was like, how do I just start something simple? And in that, it was just, I'm going to paint the things that I enjoy. So for me, golf was just something that I enjoyed watching, and I played a little bit, but was not good. Didn't ever really have the. I didn't grow up playing. I kind of hacked it around with some buddies, and one of my high school friends was he was on the high school golf team. We'd go down to the end of the street where the park was, and he would hit these great looking wedge shots, and I'd be just sculling him. He'd be trying to help me, but it was a fruitless effort. But so golf's always kind of been there. But I feel like at the right time, again, it was like golf and art kind of found me at the same time. So I would paint some fly fishing stuff. I'd paint mountains and kind of marsh scenes and just places that I liked, and elements of kind of my life that I enjoy, that kind of stick out. And so I've always loved kind of just sports and history and being outside in landscapes, and golf kind of taps all that, right? Like there's story, there's characters, there's your own journey in it. There's amazing landscapes that you can have people in them or not. So it kind of all it just fit, and I think I didn't go looking for it. It was like, well, that's part of what I like, so we'll do that. And but yeah, it was kind of just a whim of painting things that I liked, and then that the ball just started rolling, and people would see one thing, and a next person would say, oh, could you do this project? And then someone would see that project, and yeah. And then like for my personal like involvement in golf has been amazing. Like I just have fallen in love with the game, right? Like, but it was a complete surprise, really. Like I remember going to Zach Blair's his first ringer. He invited me to come up, and he was one of those guys who was just super creative, super kind, and was like, hey, we're having this get together at Sweetens Cove. Would you want to come and just bring some paintings? Like that was it. There was nothing else other than, you want to show up and just bring some paintings. That'd be really cool. And I show up, and he's in a long sleeve t-shirt and Nike boots, and I guess he was on tour at that time already. And it was just, the scene was like nothing I'd seen before. Jay Rebel is a golf writer. He's become a good friend, and he was there, and just he said, come walk with us, and I left my clubs in the car. Like talk about fear. I was not going to play golf in front of these guys who I knew had to be really good golfers. They were hanging out there, but they could have cared less what my swing looked like. They could have cared less, like, if the ball got in the air, or whatever. It was, let's go for a walk, and you can use our clubs. They were doing some like a 3-club challenge, and so it was goofy anyway. It was just super laid back, and just had some of the best. That had to be it's a kind of an all-time introduction to my love of golf, and I think Sweetens has been that for a lot of people. I think So super thankful for that place and the people behind it. And, yeah, a lot of inspiration there to paint too. So
Awesome.
got to get back over there.
So with your golf background then, in terms of where you first, like you said, how you even started hitting at the end of the street with a buddy in high school, or even how it moves on, you're at Sweetens walking to all the places you've been now, how did that round you into Restoration Club?
I think I saw at Sweetens, and I saw kind of as my time in golf kind of extended, it was like I saw it was community, and it was like just a walk. It was a way to spend, several hours, and at Sweetens it was a 2-day thing, so it was, you got to spend a lot of time with these guys sitting around and having lunch and dinner and just hanging out. And I just saw community, and a lot of those guys are still good friends, and I catch up with them when I can. And actually went to I went down to the park in Palm Beach to do a project, and I reached out to one of the guys on one of the ringers, and he lives down in Miami, and he was so excited to just catch up. We got to play that course together, and that was super fun to reconnect. But yeah, I think that all that I just saw community growing, and it was a welcoming community for me, where I kind of felt I felt on the outside a little bit because I didn't grow up playing. But then I realized that a lot of guys didn't grow up playing, and you can see it. You can see it. A guy who grew up playing, like Danny's swing is just sweetness, right? Like
3 straight episodes of mentioning Danny Swing. We all know.
Yeah, we got to stop that quick, or
Yes.
else I got to get out there a lot more.
No, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, I'm sorry, Danny, but it's true. Like it's different when you grow up playing the game, and I love that conversation about how did you grow up playing the game? It just wasn't part of my family growing up. So I think my dad and I played maybe one round together just because he never played, and we went and played a par 3 together, and it was super fun. And but yeah, so when I'm trying to even remember how I got brought into the conversation about restoration, Danny, I'm sure you were like, "Hey, Jeff and I have this idea. It's gonna be awesome. You want to talk about it?"
I was just trying to think if it was as formal as you just said, but I think you're exactly right. I think it was probably, hey, I've started talking about this with Jeff. I know you guys are both very creative guys, and all the passion points kind of aligned, and felt like you needed to be a guy, at least from step one, to hear about it and at least get your insight and see if we could rope you in a little bit more to jump in for the ride.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we had already had a lot of conversations around faith and golf, and so that was not a hard ask for me. So yeah, it was I was, as soon as I heard it, I was super excited about what it could be. And I think after a year of events, like the Builders Cup, and then just seeing community grow kind of organically, I think there's a lot to do and a lot that's ahead of us, which is super exciting. But yeah, I was, from those initial conversations, I mean, I think we talked on, I don't know, our Zoom meetings would end after an hour, so we'd have to reset. We did that probably 5 times one night. And so those were some good conversations, and it was for sure another way of seeing God lead, kind of taking small steps at a time. So to see a podcast come up, and it's just another step, and to see what God's doing. So it's always, it's super exciting to be a part of, and just to hear, just to have the intentionality and around the golf, and it's to have conversations that go deeper and more meaningful, and then that carries off the course too, right? So
You nailed it when you said the two words of relationship and intentionality. That's the truth of what drew me into Restoration Club, was the idea of having a real community to be involved in. And as a short plug, if anybody wants to know more about the actual group itself, you can go to restorationclub.co. But it was such an amazing thing, Dave, that I'm in the same boat where I didn't grow up in golf. I didn't really know much about it. I thought it was cool. I watched it, worked at a golf course like in college just because I thought it was so cool, and had this nasty leather like snakeskin bag with some Wilson blades in it. So of course I can't golf because no one can golf with that. But I really thought it was something about the connection piece to it. So it was so powerful. But the more I kept being around better people, the more connection that happened, the more I would really enjoy those walks, like you said, of just you spend 4 hours with someone, you really get to kind of know each other in a good way if it's intentional. And I think it's what's great about what's being built here. These conversations on this podcast or the events that we do are all built around the idea that life can be transformed through the power of Jesus through relationships. This is that's what restoration is. That's what hope is. All those things are there. So it's really awesome to hear even your Genesis story from art into RC into even whatever's next for you in this. So I'm just honored to hear that story.
It's really neat just to kind of hear how you say that. That's really well put. I love it.
And don't minimize it, Dave. I can't even remember at this point how many whether it was names or logos or what we felt like the look and feel was going to be. I may have even drafted a very terrible sketch of what I thought it should be in order for you to bring it to life and evolve it to what it is now.
Yeah, we did go through a lot of names and a lot of possible logos, and there were some that I was excited about, and then I remember you found one. It was like, that one's already, that logo pretty much is already out there.
Hey, can you guys give me some cutting room floor names possibly that didn't make the cut? I gotta know.
I'm gonna have to go back into the deep cuts on that one. I can't remember at this
point.
Tune back in episode 4. You guys will hear what's going on. It's really good. Honestly, Dave, I'm out at the Wells this weekend on Sunday, and I'm wearing my RC polo, and it was cool because I had a bunch of people stop me and ask me what that was, and they loved the logo. That was great with the hatchet in there, and with the golf club, they just thought it was a really cool thing. So I got a chance to really share some of the mission and vision of what we're doing, and it was just all because of the logo. So kudos to you guys for creating something that's conversational but also aesthetically pleasing. I mean, all the swag I have, I'm really proud of, whether it's a Baysden t-shirt or a polo or a hat, it's all really cool stuff. So I think it's awesome.
We put Dave to work too early. I think we put a lot of pressure on him, making sure we had the right stuff for the Builders Cup. But what he put together design wise, I think created arguably my favorite hoodie that I owned at this point. So
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Hopefully we'll keep him on the payroll.
Payroll? What?
No,
I really I loved creating that logo because there's so many elements of it that tell our story, and those pieces are some of those are not being told yet. I'm excited to have those be told as time goes on, right? I remember some of our conversations being around like regrowth and restoration, and the hatchet just being like the symbol of there were conversations around like just God doing work to just cut us down, and then new growth comes from that, right? Like, so that hatchet is actually a really powerful part of our story, even though I don't feel like that's been told just yet, right? Like there's some of those elements that I think just the idea of restoration we're still experiencing ourselves, and so we're going to see that in each other, and some of that is hard work, like and God does a lot of that work. So like even overcoming that fear, like, and leaving that job and starting a new career, God was doing work, and it was some of it was really hard, and some of it's still hard. Like, I mean, just telling you tonight, just stuff we're dealing with as far as like just running a business now, that I've got a lot to learn, and and God's putting people in my path that are going to help me or helping me kind of make wise decisions, and I see his hand in that too. So yeah, it's really.
Dave, I'll ask because it's a question I have, because you kind of brought it up again. You mentioned that fear thing again. A lot of people listening, what would you tell someone who's sitting in fear now of a step they wanted to take, or they've always thought about, or maybe it's even in the back going, I don't think I can do anything, or I can't do anything? What would you tell
Well, that's hard, because I mean, obviously it's going to be different for each person, and every person's journey is going to be different. But I would just say that that God hears your prayers. Like, for me to look at a journal that I don't even journal, like that was probably the third page in a journal, and the rest is empty. And I have another journal that's 3 pages in, and the rest is empty. Like, but the fact that I found it, and I can see that God heard my prayer. Like, he heard my heart. He knows my heart. He is personal, and he's pursuing, and he's there, and I cannot just the strength that I get from that. I would hope that others would say, okay, he hears me, and my timing may look really different than his timing. So 10 years later, I'm doing something that I didn't even see on the table. Like, but God knew, and he took me those steps to step out of that fear. And I just, each person's story is different. So it's not like just go for it. It's like, just give it up and let, and then start watching where God kind of starts moving, and he's moving those breadcrumbs, right? Like, it's crazy.
Sounds like the best advice that you could possibly give, because it hits everybody exactly where they are. I mean, it's a great point. Everybody's journey is different, but the common denominator of releasing control and letting God, because that's, again, you're just gonna have to take that step sooner or later. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, and I'm glad you took that first step to that door. That's pretty awesome.
Me too.
I appreciate it.
I love that you grabbed onto that moment of that being a step. I kind of look over that sometimes, because it wasn't me even moving a paintbrush. It wasn't like, it was just stepping into a community, right? Like, so I mean, there may be people who are like, what's Restoration Club? Maybe it's just taking step into a community, and the community's there. And it was that community was way more welcoming than I could have imagined. And I've heard you talk, Ryan, about just when you walked into that old church at the Builders Cup, and just that it being just a welcoming environment. And I hope that's what we're known for, is people saying, man, they just said, come on, and let's go play golf, and let's talk about Jesus. And it's no other thoughts on the table than just, let's do life. Let's talk about it. Let's walk together. It's good.
Awesome.
Makes me think about, Dave, this past week, that we need to be reminded of the expectation that people are waiting to see God move through this in all different types of ways using the game. Dave and I actually had an opportunity to revisit a guy that has been involved since day one, that actually shot photos at the Builders Cup. Zach of Chasing Foul, we caught up with him at the Wells Fargo out at Quail Hollow this past week, and he told us that he and another guy in Pinehurst that have been involved with Restoration Club are hosting their own meetup in a couple weeks. So,
I was super excited. Like, I was so exciting to hear. Like,
it's awesome.
We were unaware of it, but they're, taking the mission and doing it themselves. And I think that's all we can really hope for, is that guys kind of align on what this is supposed to be, and feel empowered to do that in their own local communities, which is amazing.
Guys,
I think that's super exciting to see that, for something like that to happen organically. I mean, if we were to hold on to anything so tight, that this is ours, this is what we want it to be, then it's not going to go anywhere. So again, you have to give it up, and God is moving, and I think he's building that community, and those meetups are going to start just happening all over the place, I hope.
Yeah, it's the small fires that keep the big one going, right? It's kind of
There you
where
go.
so it's really cool to see how the meetups in Pinehurst, or the meetups that are happening in Tennessee, or the meetups that are going to be happening in Charlotte, or whatever. And in fact, I might make my way to Pinehurst to hang out with those guys, with Chasing Foul and the guys.
I'm tempted to make the drive.
Yeah, it's such a great opportunity it really is easy. You just have to make time, and you have to take the opportunity to be with people and want to cultivate relationship. And who would not want to just be in a carefree, loving environment?
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an opportunity, and plus to do something that's fun and you enjoy, and those types of things. So all the golfers out there, this is the thing, man. This is something to really latch into.
Yeah, and I think it's also a place for hard conversations, right? Like, it's, men need places to talk about the stuff in their lives that's hard, and I think it's a great I think golf is a great avenue to do that. There's time in it. There's challenges, and there's moments to just stop, and you might be waiting on a hole, but it's a good time to dig into ask a question that you've been wondering about, or I think it's just such a good. I mean, I love the game for that. I love just the way it builds, and and you can it's there for a long time, right? It's the game of a lifetime, and I know when I started painting, it was like my idea was like, finally, if I'm going to start this, I'm going to start it. I'm finally going to start it, and when I'm 80, maybe I'll still be painting, and hopefully I'll be better than I am now. And golf's the same way. It's just like, all right, fine. I'm actually gonna try and play this game and have fun with it. And maybe when I'm 80, I'm still playing, and hopefully I'm better than I am now. So hopefully I'll hit it straighter. We'll see what happens. I have played with a couple of 80. I played with a couple of guys that are 83 at Sifford one day, and they were on their second lap of 9 holes, and they were cruising. They were humming. They were mad at the people in front of us.
Of course they were. That place to be.
I played last year with a guy that was 65 years old that decided to make his way to North Carolina from Canada and shot the smoothest 72 par round I've ever seen. It was infuriating. I'll just say that.
But we still got time. We got some time still. There's hope for us, Danny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Danny, let me no look past you. Everybody's favorite question. You want to throw that one up there and hit it to Dave?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Dave, you may already know at this point, this is a question we want to ask every guest, just because I think it's going to peel back so many different responses. And I'd be lying if I wasn't anticipating yours, just because I think you've had more moments than most. But what is your favorite moment on a golf course not involving a golf club?
Yeah, I was thinking about this one, and I loved Jordan's response last week, and I love that we can love that game without it. Yeah, like the question hits at it's the game, but it's outside of the game, right? And so for me, I'm so grateful for where the places I've been able to go, that like just surprise after surprise. I was able to go. Well, so this story happened at Bandon, and that place is amazing if you haven't been, obviously. Actually, my buddy Jay Rebels was there last week, and it was fun to see his pictures. He's a guy that needs to be there. Like, I can't wait to hear the words that he's going to write about it. So that'll be really cool. But yeah, so I was out there with some photographers. Ryan Barnett was one of them, and we played all the courses, and the Bandon Dunes was our last course. And I kept telling them about hole 15. Like, you just wait till you get to it. It's going to be amazing. And they had it's like did you not do any research before you came out here? Like when I know I'm going somewhere, it's like, all right, I'm gonna fly through it. I'm gonna see what, you know. So I'm standing out on the tee, and I had been out there sketching all the whole trip, which was another just kind of really special part of being a part of golf, but not swinging a club. Like I got to walk and sketch, and so I painted this quick scene of Bandon, and we gosh, my mind is blanking. Is it 16 or 15? It's 16, isn't it? Hang on, sorry.
Lee's like, hold on, I got it right here. I've got it painted up right here.
You guys showcase the
Yeah,
sketch,
it's
please.
16. It's 16.
It was 16.
16. I don't know why I said 15, but anyway, so we're on the hole 16. I do a quick painting, and after the round, we go meet. We're just having dinner outside on the patio, watching the sun go down, which is ridiculous. And these two couples were sitting beside us, so we just started chatting and met them, and just like they had been there for a day. It was like their last day. So I get so I have all my little. It was just a little like 4x5 painting. And then I see them in the airport, and then I see them on our airplane, like as we were leaving, and I was like, you know, I don't know, I just got this thought of like, how cool it'd be to give them one of the sketches, or each of the guys a sketch that I'd done. Like I didn't have any plans for them, other than I didn't know what else I can do with them. So I tracked them down in the airport after we got off the plane, and I gave them each a painting, and it had my contact on the back. And he sent me an email the next day, and he was like, Dave, I cannot thank you enough for that painting. Every time I go on a golf trip that I think my dad would have liked, his dad had passed like 5 years before, he leaves a golf ball on the course somewhere. And so he had left a golf ball at the 16th tee, abandoned, and that was a painting I'd given him. And it was just this connection of like, this is outside of any plans that I would have known, outside of any, it was just this happening that I feel like God was in the middle of, and saying, Dave, this is where I've called you. Your work before had very little purpose. Your work now has purpose. And that was just such a big encouragement in my walk. So it was like that was ridiculous. So yeah, I would have to say that maybe a longer story than you wanted, but it was a super powerful moment in the game of golf, in community, in being able to use what God's put in front of me. So yeah. And I think that's another hit, is that our work can have purpose. And I think for a long time it didn't. And we talked a lot about, as we were forming Restoration, just the idea that our life has purpose, and that God is personal, and that purpose is different for each of us, and it's helping other men find that purpose and building each other up, which is super humbled and excited to be a part of what's going on. So
yeah, I feel like I constantly think if we're just using golf to get guys together to play the game, then I think we're missing it. I think if we're always thinking about creating those conversations, or creating a safe space to do life together, and as you said, talk about hard things, then there's going to be a greater purpose there.
Yeah. And Dave, whether you know this or not, here's another affirmation from the Lord, right? That you changed that man's life. You will be a mark on his life forever. You pick 16. 16 is great, right? But he left the ball on 16. It has a symbolism for his father. Like, that's going to be a story he tells. That's going to be a legacy left. That's so powerful. I just think it's amazing. Like, saw him at the airport, on your plane, all the stuff that's going. Like, it's I'm getting those little bumps up. I'm like, man, that's crazy. It's really cool.
Oh, I was too. It was just like, after he sent me that note, but even in the airport, I was like, you know what, this is just ridiculous. They're like, I'm like the last one off the plane, you know, and but it just happened. Like, they were standing there chatting. So I appreciate you saying that. I think that's where you get humbled by that you would be used in a way like that. And I think God wants to use each of us in different ways in different people's lives. So
we have to be alert and aware, and we have to take action when we feel that prompting. So I'm glad you did. That's cool.
Yeah.
Dave, I just got to ask this before we let you go. I don't know if you view this as if you were picking your favorite kid or not, but do you have a piece that you feel like is your favorite that you've done?
That's a question.
Guys, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. It is like picking your favorite kid. I mean, I don't know. The painting I did of Band in 16, once I did a bigger painting of that one for a buddy in Virginia. He has it in his dining room, and every once in a while he'll shoot me a picture of it and just say, Dave, this is my breakfast for you this morning. And just to have somebody love your work that much that they want to share it with others, and it's ridiculous that I get to do what I'm doing, and so I'm just super thankful. But I would say probably that piece. He'll be happy to hear that too.
That's awesome.
I'm going to go ahead and speak it into existence now. Ryan and I will have a Baysden commission painting in our dining room at some point too.
I'm just living off my prints right now. I'll be getting a commission piece. It's going to happen.
We got to work on your background. You got the bobbleheads back there, so we got.
Yeah, we'll get some stuff going. Yeah, trust me. We'll be in contact, Dave.
Sounds good. I know where to find you.
But Dave, we just want to say thank you for your time. Most importantly, for your heart in this work, this group. We mentioned earlier that we're this community that people can belong to. And I'm so proud that you're a founding member of that you're a founder, I should say, of that. And that if it wasn't for you listening and agreeing with Danny to even come in and be a part of anything, then maybe we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. So thankful for who you are, for what you do, and for all the ways that you're making an impact through the work that you're doing. So just want to say thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Thanks for those kind words. Appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. So thanks for making it happen.
All right, everybody. Well, that was episode 3 of the Restoration Club podcast. Dave Baysden, amazing guy, humble guy. Love having him on to tell his story. So definitely check that out. You can always find us at restorationclub.co. Make sure you check us out at restoration_club on Instagram. Join the Discord. We'll drop all the links in the description. Definitely follow Dave too. If you've not seen his artwork, shame on you. Just kidding. You guys got to check him out too. So we'll definitely be dropping his channels in there as well. But we're excited to keep bringing these to you guys. Stay tuned. And until next time, keep swinging.
Keep swinging.